Chapter 10 Meeting the Weltkinder. A quaint little village can be seen. The main bodies of the buildings are made out of wood, and the roofs are made out of mud and dirt that still has grass growing in it. All of the buildings are longer than they are wide, and the most impressive buildings are over 100 feet long. The people have light skin and hair that is some shade of red or reddish brown. All Weltkinder have light hair, but appearance varies somewhat from clan to clan. The men wear long-sleeved tunics and pants, and any man mature enough to grow facial hair has some kind of facial hair. The women have their hair styled in braids, ponytails, and pigtails. They all wear long-sleeve, ankle-length dresses, and most wear skirts or sleeveless outer dresses over them. Viteria walks into the village. She still wears her dark cloak, but her hood is down and she has colored her hair a bright orange that matches her eyes perfectly. Viteria's perspective. I saw a young man about my age laying between hay bales. I couldn't see him well through the hay, but I could tell he had fiery red hair and wore a pale yellow tunic and reddish-brown pants. I was curious about what was going on, so I went up to him and asked him, "What are you doing?" "Playing hide-and-seek," he said. "All the young people of the village are having one big game right now." A game? It sounded like fun, so I asked him if I could join in. "Fine," he said. "Just go and hide somewhere. The sooner the better. You'll ruin my hiding spot if we talk anymore." As I walked away, he said, "Wait, how will the others know you when they see you? You're an outsider, right? I don't think anyone has ever seen you before, or would even know if they found you." I thought. "Tell them to look for the girl with the spiky hair." I used my sorcery to help me get up in a high tree that was just outside the village. It seemed like a good hiding spot to me. After a while of just waiting, I heard a voice shout, "Hey, spiky girl!" The sudden shout startled me and I fell out of the tree. I knew I was in for a pretty nasty fall if I did nothing, so I used sorcery to slow me down and land softly. The crowd of young people gathered near my tree all gasped, and I even heard one say, "She's a witch!" I didn't know what that meant, but it didn't sound good. What?" I said. A young woman who looked about my age stepped forward. She had blue eyes and copper-colored hair pulled back into a ponytail and wore a purplish-blue velvet dress that clearly indicated her high status. "You realize it's against the law to learn magic without the permission of the temple, right?" she said. "If I were any other priestess's daughter, you'd be dead now. But don't worry. I'm more open-minded than my sisters. Your secret is safe with me. My mother doesn't even approve of the fact that I'm friends with commoners. If she knew I was playing with a witch..." The young woman chuckled and then said, "She'd have us both skinned alive." "What's your name?" the young woman asked. "My name is Joanna, but you can call me Anna." I stuttered. I didn't know what kind of name would sound normal to these people, and I had a feeling Viteria wouldn't, so I said, "What a coincidence! My name is also Joanna." "So, what are we going to call you?" one of the people in the crowd asked. "We already have an Anna." "What's wrong with Joanna?" I asked. "Huh? Don't you want to be our friend?" the person said. Hopelessly confused, I just said, "Yeah?" "Then we have to have a familiar name for you, silly," Anna said. "How about Johan?" "That sounds too much like Johan," someone in the crowd said. "It sounds fine to me," I said. "So where are you from, Johan?" Anna asked. "What clan do you hail from? Who's your kin?" I knew I probably shouldn't answer that question 100% honestly, so I told her, "Well, me and my uncle have been traveling for a long time, so I guess I don't really know where our roots are." "Those burnt-faced bastards!" someone said angrily. "Them and their hero, Alexius the Butcher, probably wiped her clan out back in the war." Well, Anna said, know that you and your uncle will always have a place here. Anna smiled kindly, and I smiled back. I was so happy. Finally, I had real friends again. I became good friends with all of the young men and women in the village, but I was particularly close with Anna. She was so kind and virtuous. I felt I could tell her anything. So one day, I decided to let her in on my closest secret. When we were alone, I undid the spell on my hair and let her see it in its natural sea green. She started giving me the funniest look, and I was worried that this might have been a bad idea after all. Mother has told me legends, Anna said, about the grass-haired people who originally taught us magic, but I didn't think you actually existed. She got on her knees and bowed her head until it almost touched the ground and said, I am so humbled to be in your presence. You'd think this would be flattering, but it was actually kind of embarrassing, really. Anna was my friend. I didn't want to be worshipped by her. I told her, please, this isn't necessary. You are my friend and my equal, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Now that you know the truth about me, there are so many questions I've been wanting to ask you about your people, the Weltkinder, and I don't have to be afraid to ask them anymore. Of course, Anna said, as long as I can ask you questions about your people. All right, I said. I knew I should probably be careful not to say too much, but it didn't seem fair to Anna for her to tell me everything about her people without me offering up anything in return. We spent a very long time just getting to know each other. We Weltkinder were nomadic hunter-gatherers until relatively recently in our history, Anna said. Some estimate it was as recently as 200 years ago that we started relying completely on farming, and even then, some clans preferred staying to the old ways, while we agricultural clans stayed here, in these eastern lands we're in now. The nomadic clans traveled to the west and encountered the Dark Ones. We fought a great war for control of the land, but we could not stand against their technology, and the Dark Ones now rule all the lands to the west and the south. I'm sure you've heard some of us speak angrily of the burnt-faced bastards. Many of us still hold deep hatred over what happened in the war, and most of us won't refer to those people as anything other than mudbrains or burnt faces. But the more polite among us refer to them as the Dark Ones, since their hair and skin are darker than ours. Before the war, there was little unity among the clans. Individuals identified more with their clan than with their people as a whole, and war between the clans was not uncommon. Our war with the Dark Ones forced us to unite to have any chance against them, and we finally formed a single, unified identity. The Dark Ones think their technology somehow makes them superior to us savages, but we like to think of ourselves as being more in touch with nature, so we started calling ourselves Weltkinder. Weltkinder means children of the world, or the world's children. After that, she asked me to tell her about my people. I tried to stick mostly to trivial things like what foods we ate and what kinds of houses we lived in. I mentioned that we lived in relative isolation on an island, but I didn't say how we became isolated. I also mentioned that magic is a big part of our society, and everyone studies it from a very early age. I curiously asked her what place magic had in this society. Well, to understand what magic means to us, Anna said, you first need to understand the role of us priestesses. As the link between the physical realm and the spirit realm, we have always held a great amount of power and respect with our people. When we first encountered your people, the Sorcelings, we priestesses, as the leaders of our people, served as the intermediaries between our two peoples. We were the first ones to learn magic from you, and unfortunately, many priestesses exploited this to gain a monopoly on magical learning. Many of them abused their power and used it to control the people. They didn't want to let average people learn magic for themselves, since that would undermine a large source of their power. So learning magic without the permission of the temple is strictly forbidden, and anyone discovered using it without permission is branded a witch or a warlock and put to death. This is one of many things I do not see eye to eye with my sisters on. A leader is supposed to be kind and benevolent. She is supposed to use her power to help her people, not to control them. When I finally become a fully fledged priestess, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to rule with compassion and put an end to the practices that encourage priestesses to abuse their power. I lived in relative harmony with these people for a while, but one day, I got to see for myself a priestess abusing her power, like Anna had mentioned, and that's when everything went bad. It was Anna's mother, Micah. I hadn't seen her many times, since Anna made it clear it would be better if we didn't meet, but I immediately recognized the red velvet dress she preferred wearing, and her hair and eye color, which were the same as Anna's. She looked a lot like an older version of Anna, but instead of a ponytail, she had her hair in a great braid that started at the back of her head and came down to the middle of her back. That day, I saw her pushing some commoners around for not showing her proper respect. I tried my best to ignore it. She was Anna's mother, after all, and I didn't want to do anything that might drive a rift between us. It was when she used sorcery to hold the people in the air and said, "Do you not see these great gifts the gods gave us? People deserving of such gifts are deserving of respect." That was when I had heard enough. "That's bullshit!" I shouted. "The gods didn't teach you magic. Ordinary people did." "And how would you know, little girl?" Micah asked. I knew I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I knew I probably shouldn't have even said anything to begin with. But seeing what she did to those helpless people made me so angry. All I could think about was how mad I was at Micah, and it caused me to ignore all logic and reason even though I knew better. I figured I had already dug myself into a mess the moment I opened my mouth. Digging myself deeper wasn't going to make much of a difference at this point, so I undid the spell on my hair and said, "Because I'm one of them!" I shot a blast of sorceress energy at Micah, but she jumped out of the way and avoided it. She used sorcery to lift up some rocks and threw them at me. I called up a barrier of sorceress energy that caught the rocks in it. Then, I expelled the barrier in a powerful blast that sent the rocks flying at Micah. Most of them landed around her, but one of them clearly hit her, and it seemed to hurt her badly. She fell down to the ground. Maybe that was when I really took things too far, but in hindsight, I think I took things too far the moment I started that fight. In a rage, I just kept hitting Micah with blast after blast of magical energy, even though she was already helpless and on the ground. Finally, I heard a voice shout, "Mama!" Anna ran up, got between us, and threw her arms out to protect Micah. I think that's when I finally realized the terrible thing I had done. "Anna," I said. "Don't call me that," Anna said. "Only my friends are allowed to use that name." "But what about what she did?" I asked. "I thought you said you didn't like seeing priestesses using their power to abuse people." "She may have a heart of stone," Joanna said, "but she's still my mother, and I won't let you kill her." Kill her? Was that really what I was doing? I guess if I hadn't been stopped, I don't know what I might have done. "When I'm priestess," Joanna said, "I'm going to change things the right way. I'm not going to become the very monster I oppose. As priestess in training and future leader of my people, I order you to leave this village and never come back." I heavy-heartedly left the village and joined back up with Uncle Delwyn to become an outcast once again. I told him about everything that had happened. I told him about the way Veltkinder priestesses abuse sorcery. Delwyn's perspective. "I can understand how upset you were," I told Viteria, "but you can't let your emotions control you. You have to be the one in control of yourself, not your emotions. If you had let yourself stay in control, you and Joanna would still be friends. Yeah, I know, Viteria said between sobs. The Dark Ones see sorcery as a tool of war. The Veltkinder see it as a means of control. Even we Sorcelings have shown we don't know how to use it responsibly. I was beginning to wonder if anyone did.